I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings, and I should freely admit that I'm still on my run of doing things that are easy. Because in a choice between doing what is easy and what is right, I am choosing to do what is easy, so I'm rereading Bobbsey Twins books. I did a Bobbsey Twins book before. But it's been a while, and I really, really loved these books back when I was about 6 to 10 years old. I thought they were awesome. So I pulled one off the shelf, somewhat at random, and I think I pulled this at least partly because I was never the world's biggest circus person, but part of that was because circuses are something that didn't come to town very often to begin with, and I've never liked large crowds, and the circus wasn't like the CNE, the X, the Canadian National Exhibition, which, that only comes around once a year, and circuses were a little like that, but I'm nostalgic for the concept of the circus, which circuses are a thing that wound up going the way of the dodo, not merely because of circus animals, because the mistreatment of animals in a circus has certainly always been an issue, but also because of how we have changed culturally. Because the thing is, the circus at one time was the greatest show on earth, as the slogan said, because circuses would travel from small town to small town, these small towns where you didn't have access to television and the internet, where you didn't have necessarily access to a movie theater, where you certainly didn't have access to professional live shows. And the thing about a circus was that, no, this wasn't like going to Broadway, but it was a professional show being done by people who their jobs were to entertain. And so a circus was a big, big deal back in the day. And this is a book that has a publication date of 1960. And back in the 1960s and earlier, a circus was a big deal. A circus was a live show with, animals the likes of which you couldn't see, because if you were in small town North America, you weren't going to be able to get to see a zoo, because you would have to go to a big city to see a zoo. You wouldn't get to see live performances by actual honest professionals, because professionals aren't found in small towns, they're found in big cities. It was a live show. It was a little bit of everything, because you had a fun fair, you got to have fun fair food, you got to have performances, as I said, by people whose jobs were to entertain, you got to see wild animals, you got to see the freak show, you got to see all of this stuff. And however much of an ethical, moral issue aspects of circuses were, there was a glamour to the circus from the outside. Much like there is a glamour to any kind of show business from the outside, because of course those of us on the outside don't see all the work and blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. So this book holds a sort of an odd double dose of nostalgia for me, for a time when circuses meant, because Cirque du Soleil and other such things, they don't do what these circuses did. Because what circuses did was they traveled all over the country from small town to small town. Cirque du Soleil doesn't do that. They go to big cities and they perform in big cities. And they're not providing the service that circuses once did, but circuses can't make the profit that they once did, precisely because we all have the internet, we all have, Netflix and television and movie theaters and access to all kinds of things that we simply didn't And so the entertainments aren't nearly as entertaining as they once were. But so like I said, this is double nostalgia for both a concept of something from a lost time, but also for these books that were that were a big deal to me in my childhood. I really, really liked the Bobbsey Twins books because, of course, I'm not a huge mystery person. If I was a big mystery person, I would have been much more of an Encyclopedia Brown fan, but Encyclopedia Brown was fine, but that was an actual mystery that needed solving. These are much more slice of life things with a sort of a mystery on the side that may kind of happen. So, as I said in the previous one, but since it's very possible nobody even remembers the previous video or will ever find it, the Bobbsey Twins were a family of two sets of twins, and of course their two parents. That you had Bert and Nan, who were the older twins, the dark-haired two, and Freddie and Flossie, who were the younger blonde twins. And so the Bobbsey Twins series, which fall into the same category as Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, that is, a whole bunch of different authors write it, but they all write it under the same author name, in this case, Laura Lee Hope. And they just have sort of a series of, in this case, the circus comes to town, and they have a sort of a series of encounters along the way and help with solving a mystery over the course of the book, and they have a series of encounters with the circus. So the book opens up with Freddie and Flossie trying to sell orangeade, and I don't quite know what homemade orangeade is because I've never really needed to look into that. But anyways, it's a kid's lemonade stand, and they're trying to make money because Freddie and Flossie want to raise money to support a camp for that they want to support a camp for small children or for poor children. It's a summer camp for needy city children being built outside of the town of Lakeport that they live in. And so Freddie and Flossie wanted to raise some money to donate some things to the camp. And so in this scene, their dog has been stung by a wasp and is freaking out and nearly gets hit by a car. Poor thing. And that's why everybody's panicking. Anyways, in the course of events, they wind up temporarily, or it's supposed to be temporarily, adopting a trained circus dog because they stumble across him and a man going by the surname Riker, no relation to Commander Riker of the Enterprise. Anyways, he is looking for this dog. They stumble across it and try to get in contact with him and can't track him down and stuff. So they agree to keep the dog, who, like I said, he's a trained circus dog, so he does tricks and hops around on his hind legs as trained circus dogs do. And the circus comes to town, and they go to see the circus, and there's a series of problematic contretemps, including 3 lion cubs escaping from the circus, as well as a full-grown adult lion escaping from the circus. And there's a side plot involving a little girl named Sandy, who they become friends with, and she is from a different circus, and her mother was severely injured because her mother was part of a high-wire act and suffered a nasty fall and was in hospital for a very long time, and Sandy's father is away and nobody knows where he is. And so they befriend her, and she talks a little bit about the circus, and they meet people at the circus. And it's all very, very friendly, and it's, painted with rose-colored glasses, the view of what the circus is like. And the pictures in this one are different from the last Bobbsey Twins book I did, because in the last Bobbsey Twins book, and I will not look those pictures up mainly because they're on a memory stick somewhere and I have no idea where it is. These are sketchy pictures. The ones before were much more cartoony, much more deliberately designed to be comic-like. But these are much more these are much sketchier pictures. They're designed to evoke a slightly more realistic view. And I don't know if it's because the previous book that I read, which believe it was Wonderful Winter Secret, was published in the 1950s and therefore perhaps was slightly more, I don't know, more stylized. But anyways, the change in drawing style is, it's a little unexpected, I suppose, when you think about these books, but it's also equally understandable because these were manufactured books. And I mean, I enjoy them because, they're fun. They're a fun, clean read. They are a little dated in ways, like the fact that they have a colored cook and her husband who rent a place in the house and, with the family. And, at that point in my life, when I was reading them, I genuinely had no idea that there were any racist implications at all. I just knew that they had a cook and her husband who rented a place, and, then again, my family didn't have enough money that we could have afforded to have somebody cook for us anyways, so, that alone made this whole thing just a little bit, outside of my ken. So the fact that there is a colored cook and her husband, that could be seen as slightly problematic, but honestly, she's just a tertiary character who is just there so they can have somebody who, gets upset at things. Mainly, I suspect that the Bobbsey Twins' parents have to be laid back because their elder son and daughter and all four of their children actually are constantly getting themselves, locked up in fridges and almost killed in train accidents and things. Because it's a thing that periodically happens in these books that, somebody sets something on fire and the kids have to get out, or, Flossie gets chased by a moose up a tree or whatever. These are things that happen, and I suspect the parents wind up having to be laid back, or else they would stress themselves up into the stratosphere. No, the thing about the Bobbsey Twins books was they're gentle, and they're fun, and they're just some stuff that happens with a bit of a hint of a mystery that adds just a little bit of something to this to make it more than, and then some other stuff happened. But they're solid. That said, they are manufactured. They're like Harlequin romance novels where somebody gives you an outline and says, this is how you write this kind of book, and you will produce a book that meets these particular qualifications, and then we slap a cover on it. So I think that's all that I'm going to say about this, which has been a big incoherent mess. And that's everything. So I will see everybody next week.